Alright, I think I gotta start it off with a big one for this one.
What, a big what?
Whoa. What's going on, YouTube? It's me, Cameron.
And me, Kevin.
And welcome back to another episode of Father-Son Films. Today, what we're going to be getting into is some news that was just recently announced on Collider.
Crazy news.
Crazy news.
Crazy
okay,
news.
I'm really looking forward to this one. We're going to do it kind of in a podcast style. I'm going to have Dad reading off kind of the article. Squeaking back there. I'm going to have my dad read off the article. And just kind of explain what's going down, and we're just going to react to some of the new news that was just announced.
So this article just came out earlier on today, June 20th, from Collider.com. We're going to put in the description the YouTube link of this story as well from Collider. But this says exclusive. They got an exclusive story. Future A Star Wars Story spin-offs on hold at Lucasfilm. It may be a while before we see any more movies like Solo, A Star Wars Story out of Lucasfilm. Sources with knowledge of the situation tell Collider that Lucasfilm has decided to put plans for more A Star Wars Story spin-off movies on hold, instead opting to focus their attention on Star Wars Episode 9 and what the next trilogy of Star Wars films will be after that film. Sources tell us that the previously rumored Obi-Wan movie was in active development, but those who were working on the film are no longer involved. It was recently reported that Logan filmmaker James Mangold was in early talks to write and direct the Boba Fett film, but that was before Solo's release. The article continues, says this news comes in the wake of the disappointing launch of Solo, which was only Lucasfilm's second A Star Wars Story spin-off, but which received mixed positive reviews and fell short of box office expectations. It starts to go in some of the numbers of exactly how much money Solo, A Star Wars Story made. Now, it made a lot of money, but for a Star Wars movie, it's a bust. It's a total bust. It didn't make anywhere near the money people were hoping. Even the lowest projections that they were hoping, it came in way under even those projections as well. Right? And, then it goes in a little bit more in the article, blaming the May release date could have had something to do with it. And then just kind of finishing off at the end of the article here. It says, regardless, we're hearing that plans to revisit this A Star Wars Story format have been put on hold for the moment. Initially announced as anthology movies, the spin-offs got off to a rocky start and haven't exactly been smooth sailing. There's a whole bunch of news over the last couple of years of the problems that they have had with these spin-off movies, firing directors and firing writers and all the different problems that they've had getting these spin-off movies off the ground. And then it's, concluding here, it says, as with everything in Hollywood, it's always possible that some filmmaker could come in and pitch an idea for Star Wars Story spin-off that makes Lucasfilm rethink its approach or opt to greenlight that idea as a one-off. But as of right now, we're hearing the studio's focus has moved away from these spin-offs for the time being and is squarely intent on getting Episode 9 to the finish line and figuring out what the next trilogy of films will be. So that's kind of the summary of the article. Encourage it. We'll have, again, the link below. So this is big news.
Yeah.
This is big news because when Disney acquired Lucasfilm, the plan was to have a Star Wars movie out every year. Yeah. They were going to have the trilogy movies, and in between the trilogy movies, having these anthology movies, these standalone Star Wars movies. And as a Star Wars fan, I was stoked and pumped. And, when people kind of say, well, Solo didn't do well because of, fatigue, Star Wars fans don't get fatigue.
No.
Okay, we love Star Wars. And we'll buy everything Star Wars, anything Star Wars, if it's good Star Wars.
Exactly.
If it's garbage Star Wars, we're not going to buy it. So we're not going to spend money on bad Star Wars. Yeah. Right? So what do you have to think about that article, Cameron?
Crazy. I mean, it's going to be the first time since the Force Awakens that we're actually going to be getting a year without Star Wars, We're finally going to have that slight break in between the films. Now, I always anticipated that it would be coming. I was never really sure if it was just going to be the two films or not. And then having the three, obviously, in the opposing years. But it was just very interesting to see now that they're finally taking into account what the fans have been saying. People have not been in support of these films that they've been creating. Rogue One wasn't doing so great. But more great than Han Solo is doing, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think it really came down to The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I think The Last Jedi, the decisions that they made with The Last Jedi, it broke the fandom. There are a lot of great YouTube channels out there that you can watch that talk about this breaking of the fandom. I would encourage you to check out Jeremy at Geeks and Gamer, and again, we'll link these guys. Jeremy's got an amazing YouTube channel talking about how the fandom in Star Wars has been broken. There's also John over at John Talks Star Wars who talks about this a lot. So this has been an ongoing conversation that, when George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney and Kathleen Kennedy became the head, Kathleen Kennedy sat down and said, we want to honor these characters, we want to honor the vision that George had. And then she just took all the pieces of paper that George had, put them into a garbage pile, set it all on fire, and did something completely different.
Did you see the news recently about him revealing the first little bit of what that story would have looked like?
Yeah, and we should do another video about that another time,
should.
because sounded a little crazy with
crazy.
midi-chlorians and the wills. But you know what? At least with George Lucas, he had a story. He had a plan. Like, he had an idea where these 9 episodes were going. Even if there might have been stuff that we didn't like as fans, we didn't like midi-chlorians or that idea, but he had an idea from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Whereas I think since Lucasfilm was sold to Disney, Kathleen Kennedy at the helm of Lucasfilm has not had a big picture plan for these movies. For me, it feels like they have been making it up as they go. They make one movie, see how much money it makes, and then decide how can we make more money. There doesn't seem like there was any creative process in sitting down and planning out what do we want to do with these characters, what is the timeline that we're trying to create.
No, I'm in agreement for that. It's definitely starting to seem just like a cash cow now, especially seeing some of this stuff in episode 8, how it was just kind of, there were points even in the story where it was just kind of, it took you out of the story. Take, for example, the Canto Bite scenes and everything.
So bad.
Where, just to kind of push a Disney agenda of kind of, this is what we believe, so we're going to shove it into a Star Wars film. Now, I remember way back when, right when they had announced the Star Wars movies, and everyone was saying, okay, the Star Wars films, they're over. It's going to be a musical now. Disney runs the show, right? And I remember what they were saying back then. And that's kind of come back to me recently because, in a way, it's not a musical, but they're kind of forcing their own stuff in there and kind of making it Disney. Something that they're not doing with the Marvel films.
Well, see, and that's the thing, right? So I know a lot of people, they kind of blame Disney for the direction of Star Wars. But I don't, because Disney's doing an amazing job with the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
I think the fault is at Lucasfilm. I think there's something in the leadership of Lucasfilm, whether it's Kathleen Kennedy or the Star Wars story team or whatever it is. But these people don't understand Star Wars, and they don't know how to tell a good story. They just want to tell jokes and put memes and make some stuff that looks cool and try to sell a lot of product.
Yeah.
But you're not going to sell product if the characters are boring and the story is boring.
True.
You know, and it has nothing to do with not liking the characters. I mean, the characters were amazing. I loved The Force Awakens. I loved Finn in The Force Awakens. I loved Rey in The Force Awakens. I loved Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens. By the end of The Last Jedi, I couldn't care less about these people. Couldn't care less at all.
No, for sure.
So with these spin-off movies, when they were initially announced, the spin-off movies, Kathleen Kennedy presented it like, these are going to be all new, standalone opportunities for artists to do some creative and tell new stories in the Star Wars universe. But they never did that.
No.
They played it safe.
Yes.
Like, they weren't even really standalone movies. If you didn't know the story of A New Hope, Rogue One made no sense.
No, and I agree.
You couldn't watch Rogue One as a standalone movie. It wasn't standalone.
They're not standalone films. Unlike something, again, I keep bringing you back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You can watch a film like Doctor Strange. You can watch a film like Ant-Man and not have to see any of the other movies to understand what's going on.
It's connected, but stands alone.
Exactly.
Rogue One didn't stand alone. Solo. Good movie. We've reviewed it. We liked it. Didn't stand on its own. Like, it depends too much on a knowledge of Han Solo and Chewbacca and Lando, the Millennium Falcon. If you weren't already a Star Wars fan or a Han Solo fan, you would get nothing out of seeing Solo.
No, it's for sure. Yeah, I really never really found anything more than Han Solo. Han Solo I found was like a good film at the end of the day. Rogue One, I really disliked that movie.
Yeah.
And even just standalone films in general that they've been working on. I mean, it would have been cool to have seen. I'm actually kind of disappointed hearing that there was the Obi-Wan story that was put on the back burner now and kind of possibly like shut down, because that was the one that I would have cared about.
Right.
That one would have been cool, and again, it still would have been not really technically a standalone film. It would have relied on, I know, Ewan McGregor's.
But I mean, everyone loves Ewan McGregor, and definitely Obi-Wan is the movie we all wanted. We didn't want Solo, we didn't want Rogue One, we wanted Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why they dropped the ball on this one, but they finished the story we wanted to see on the big screen with Obi-Wan. They did in Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah.
The final confrontation between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi was done in Rebels. Yeah. That would have been an amazing movie.
True.
But you blew it. Lucasfilm dropped the ball.
Yeah.
So in a way, I'm really glad that they've put the brakes on these standalone movies. They have got to get their act together. They have got to get their act together. They got to figure out what kind of stories they want to tell. And they got to start repairing the relationships with the fans, and they got to start telling some good Star Wars stories. Again, Star Wars isn't about social justice. Star Wars isn't about political agendas. Star Wars is mythology. It's got to be that good conquering evil, that struggle, that humanity, like looking for hope outside of ourselves. Like, that's what made Star Wars great.
Yeah.
It was mythology, and it connected with something deep within us. And they've lost that.
Yep.
Even George Lucas's idea, even the Force, even the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. Even though a lot of fans hated them, at least they continued that story. It still had that same sense of mythology, and when you look back on them now, you still love them because they fit in the big story.
Yeah.
These standalones,
they don't fit the bill.
They didn't. They just never cut it. I'm glad they're ending. I hope this article is true.
Yeah.
And I hope someone has made a big decision. Now, what's interesting about this, it didn't say who made the decision.
No.
Who do you think? Do you think this is a Disney decision, or do you think Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm made this decision?
It was not a Kathleen Kennedy decision.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. Why would it be?
Well, if she's in charge.
Yeah, but...
So she could have made the decision based on the numbers?
I would say it was Disney.
You think
I don't feel like she could give up the legacy that she's been... Because that's when you get to a point when you have to admit your flaws. Right. And I'm not sure someone like a big-time exec producer like her would want to come to a point where she has to, come to the reality, I failed with this. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like that's something, if Disney has been pulling the rug under a lot of people with like, oh, we don't like your direction in the Han Solo film, there goes the rug.
Right.
It's just different, I don't feel like someone like Kathleen Kennedy, not that I know her well or anything like that.
But we don't know her at all.
We don't know her at all. But I don't know, just a kind of big time producer like that in general, I feel like it takes a lot to definitely admit that your movies have not been succeeding.
Sure. And you know what, my opinion of Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy at the helm of Lucasfilm would jump up by 1,000% if she was the one who made this decision, said, you know what, we got this one wrong.
Yeah.
And we're putting the brakes on this, and we're going to reevaluate.
Yeah.
I really kind of hope it was her decision, but I'm kind of in agreement with you. I think Disney made this decision, and I think this is the way Disney is going to use to replace the leadership of Lucasfilm. This is my opinion, and I know a lot of other people on the internet have that opinion as well. I love Lucasfilm. I love Star Wars. I love everything about it, and I really hope they use this opportunity to reboot, rebrand, recalibrate, and start making some good Star Wars movies.
Hopefully,
because that's and make 2 a year.
Yeah,
I'll be at all of them multiple times. We'll be there with popcorn on our laps, ready to enjoy it.
Yep.
Just make them good.
Please.
Please. So we'll keep you up to date on what we hear.
We'll keep you up to date. All right, guys. This has been another episode of Father Son Films. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. If you guys can leave a like down in the comments. I said what you said in the first episode.
See? YouTube is complicated. It's not easy.
Oh my gosh.
It's not just the old people. Young people
have
a
the old
problem
people,
with YouTube
okay? He
too.
confused me from the first episode. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I stole your thing.
Yeah, you...
Put a comment below, click subscribe, hit the little bell button so you get the notifications whenever a new video comes on. It really means a lot to us. We've been receiving some comments already. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. We love you. And God bless. And we'll talk to you soon.